Meanwhile, the US government has approved the world's first vaccine for honeybees. The vaccine is to protect the bees from the American foulbrood disease. The disease can weaken and kill beehives, and there's no known cure.
So today I want to talk about the new vaccine that's been approved by the USDA for honeybees. Yes, honeybees are getting a vaccine to combat an infection called American foulbrood. Is it foulbrood or foulbrood? I think it's American foulbrood. So this is like a bacteria or larvae that infects bees. They're saying that there's a lot of microbes right now that are threatening honeybees, moths, hummingbirds, and bats. So right now they're trying to come up with come up with vaccines to combat a lot of these larvae. This larvae decimates the bee population, and it's been around. The disease has been around since, they say, 1800s, even 1900s, and it wipes out a lot of bee colonies, and which I guess costs a lot of money for beekeepers. So right now, scientists and beekeepers see this vaccine as a glimmer of hope for helping honeybees fight back against some of the bacteria that they face. Yeah, it's called American foulbrood, and to combat the disease, they're using this vaccine. The official name for the bacteria is called Paenibacillus. I hope I spell this right. I hope I pronounce this right. Paenibacillus larvae. It's P-A-E, N as in Nancy, I, B as in Bob, A, C as in Carl, I, L as in Larry, L as in Larry, U, S as in Sam. Paenibacillus larvae. So this is a larvae. It causes the American foulbrood, which spreads throughout spores and kills honeybees. So they ingest the spores and the honeybees die. And the spores are carried back to the queen, and the honeybees actually die in the pre-pupal stage or pupal stage, I guess before they're even born. What it does is reduces the larvae to a brown goo, and they say it has a really, really bad smell to it. So they say when it's really bad, it causes the whole hive to stink. I don't know what that smells like. I don't want to know what that smells like. I can only imagine. It must be pretty messed up for beekeepers and bees themselves, I guess. I don't know if they can smell. Well, I guess they can sense sweet smells. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty bad. I don't want to know. Although honey smells and tastes good. Can you imagine? Like the colony dies, and maybe you still have some good honey to get from there. That would be kind of disgusting. You probably want to throw the whole thing away. But actually, they actually burn entire colonies when there's been like widespread infection. So imagine you've been beekeeping all this time, and then all of a sudden you have to burn your entire hive as a beekeeper. See, I guess that would be pretty discouraging. So yeah, the scientists and the beekeepers see the vaccine as a breakthrough in protecting honeybees. It's also like a game changer. They also see it as an encouraging way to take care of insects that impact food production globally. This is also being discussed in other countries as far as like vaccines for insects, specifically bees right now. So the plan is to first make the vaccine available to commercial beekeepers. So it's not, I know people think vaccine, you think a needle. So they're not gonna, I know, right? This is your first thought is, how do you inject a needle into an insect without killing it? So technically, they don't inject a bee with a needle, of course. So they mix the vaccine, which contains these for short P. larvae bacteria. It contains the P. larvae bacteria cells. So they mix the vaccine, it contains P. larvae cells. I'm getting tongue-tied, sorry. And they mix it into the food that the worker bees eat. So they stir this or mix this vaccine, which contains these cells. Same way they use vaccine for humans, I guess. You contain dead cells of whatever it is that causes the infection. So basically what happens, they lay this in like a sweet jelly type of thing. And, bees like sweet things. So when the worker bees eat it, they carry it back to the queen for her to eat. Or the worker bees secrete like a milky royal jelly, and the queen eats that. And from there, the vaccine makes it through her digestive system into her ovaries, and there it'll immunize her developing larvae. Now, according to the company, it's a company called Dalan, D-A-L-A-N, Dalan Animal Health. They're located in Augusta, Georgia, I think. Somewhere in Georgia. I think it's Augusta, Georgia. It's an animal health company, and they designed this vaccine. They say it's not genetically modified and can be used for organic farming, which they say. But it doesn't say anything. I'm reading, I guess, The Guardian and Smithsonian. It doesn't say anything about any other chemicals or preservatives in it, but you never know, right? We're not there in the lab developing this thing. So what do we know? What do I know? I don't know. Just taking it at face value or what they say. So basically, they have an unconditional license from the USDA, and they want to distribute limited amounts of the vaccine to commercial beekeepers. From there, they want to offer it for sale throughout the country and maybe throughout the globe. I know there are other labs and agencies working on other vaccines for insects that kind of infect food production. Sorry, not infect, affects food production or have an impact on food production. Tongue-tied again. So normally the Federal Agricultural Agency awards conditional licenses to products that meet an emergency situation, limited market, local situation, or special circumstance. This is according to the USDA memo. It's basically an emergency situation. Yeah, because bees are being impacted. Even though they said bees are coming back, I guess this is like a boost, right, to help bring back bee production. So they require the products to receive all types of licenses, or receive the licenses to be pure and safe, and have a reasonable expectation of efficacy, based on what they said. Generally, the conditional license come with restrictions and cover a limited period of time. Once that period ends, the agency evaluates the product's effectiveness to determine whether to renew the conditional license or award a regular product license. I mean, I know that right now, beekeepers, they say they use antibiotics, and they say it can be very expensive. So they're saying this vaccine can avoid the expenses of using antibiotics, which is what they use right now. I wonder how effective that is if they're still struggling in some senses. Even though they say, again, the bees are coming back. I'm wondering what are the cases where they spend so much on antibiotics and they still lose certain hives. I wonder, I'm sure there's a study on the impact somewhere if we look that up. If I have time, maybe I'll look that up as well. Also, there's another manufacturer in the University of Georgia as well, working with the Dalan Animal Health. And I think this other company, I think it's Diamond Animal Health. Yeah, Diamond and Dalan. Imagine that. They sound like twin brothers or twin sisters. Diamond and Dalan. Diamond Animal Health. They're collaborating with Dalan, and Diamond holds a conditional license. I guess Dalan, I wasn't clear on it. They hold the other license. So yeah, again, they basically mix the vaccine into jelly-like substance, and worker bees eat it. I guess they call it their royal jelly, like a milky substance, and then the queen eats it. It all sounds disgusting, but I'm sure it's good for the bees. It just sounds, coming from a human perspective, it just sounds, but if it works, which is pretty good. They said for a while they didn't think insects could acquire immunity because they felt looks like scientists thought they lacked the antibodies to develop immunity, and the proteins that help many animals' immune systems that fight bacteria as well. But they understood that insects could acquire immunity and pass it on to their offspring, just like other animals. I wonder why they thought that. I don't know. I don't see anything. Again, I don't see any research proving that. But they said they long thought that insects couldn't acquire immunity, which I thought was interesting here. That's maybe something else to look out for. Why they thought that? Why did they go down that path? And then they came back. They backtracked and said they recognized they could develop antibodies and proteins, which is that's, I don't know. It's kind of clashing ideas, or they backtracked to an opposite idea they had previously, I think, but it's okay. They backtracked to an opposite idea. Actually, I'm just reading it again. Actually, they did. I think in 2015, there were researchers. They identified specific proteins that prompts immune response in insects. So once they learned there was a specific protein in insects that prompts an immune response, they then realized that they could cultivate immunity with the bees to help, since the bees are heavy impact on food production and pollination and things like that. So I guess in 2015, when they discovered that the insects had immunity or could develop immunity, that's when they started focusing on the bees. So in case you didn't know, as I didn't know, bees pollinate food as they feed on pollen and nectar. So bees pretty much pollinate almonds, pears, cherries, apples, and other type of produce, which I had no idea. That's important. I like almonds, I like pears, I like cherries, I like apples, and I like other types of produce. This I didn't know, which is very interesting to learn. So yeah, let's keep our almonds, pears, cherries, and other produce in healthy production. I wouldn't call those luxuries either. But yeah, I think that's important. And it also helps to fight in this bacteria so that the beekeepers don't just depend on antibiotics. And I read here that they give antibiotics once a year to the bees when there's a flare-up, according to the beekeepers. But they said antibiotics wipe out some of the beneficial microbes. Yeah, it's the same thing with humans, right? It always wipes out the good and the bad, so I guess you want to use that sparingly. And that tends to open them up to other things, or maybe close them off to other things. So the vaccine to them is a huge big breakthrough, because they consider bees like livestock. Which, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Same as chickens and horses and cows and pigs and I guess dogs and cats, things like that. Which, yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. It's really a positive way, considering the food's affected. But that was an interesting discovery or development. Feel free to leave a comment, and thank you for your time for listening. And please like and subscribe. It's good to talk with you again. Thank you very much. Take care.